wants to be a millionaire.
Hello and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Jenny and I'm joined as always from Hong Kong by my co-host and sister Heather. Say hello, dude.
Hello! So today we're doing our series wrap episode for series 5. So as you'll know, we've done these at the end of every other series so far, and we're going to mix a few things up with this one, so we'll see how it goes. But as usual, we are going to do a little bit of show history and then sum up our thoughts on the series as a whole, go over the rankings, favourite lines and moments, and we'll also go over any corrections or clarifications we may need to make, and we'll try to respond to as many comments and questions as possible, as we have quite a lot for this series, which is wonderful. Thank you for that. And technically we've reached the end of series 5, but we're aware that Royal Flush and the Frog's Legacy are not really a part of series 5, but this is where we've chosen to slot in our overview episode because this is where the most changes happened.
Yeah, that's right. So as we've touched upon during the last few weeks, after The Frog's Legacy was when the show took a rather major shift in many ways. So this seems like the right time to add some of these details into the end of the series wrap. So at this point, the show lost Ray Butt as a producer and director because he moved on to another job. And because he was a close friend and had a long working relationship with John Sullivan, and you'll remember that if you listen back to our earlier episodes, how important Ray Butt was in the process of actually getting Only Fools and Horses made in the first place. Without him, there would likely be no show, or at least it would not exist in the way that we now know it. So we're also going to talk about the fight to get the longer episode time. I know a lot of you have brought that up in the comments. The shift in the general story arc of the Trotters, which was towards more personal relationships and romance, etc. And of course, the new director, Tony Dow. And finally, the major set change of the Nag's Head.
Wow, that is actually a lot when you list it out like that. A lot of changes. So one of the other major changes that is about us and our podcast is that we are trying to get more subs. We're trying to get bigger, trying to grow. And we actually have quite a lot of ways that you can contact us now and various social media. So do you want to tell our listeners about what's available and how they can contact us and get in touch?
Yeah, no problem. So, okay, first of all, we have a Facebook page and Instagram now for anybody that would like to follow us on there. We don't have too many followers yet, so it'd be nice to grow the community a little bit there. So as far as the actual podcast itself, we also publish on YouTube as well as the major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Pocket Cast, Podbean, etc. Somehow it ends up on more platforms than I've even published it on because it draws it from Spotify. So let me know where you listen. That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah.
And we're very happy to see that we have listeners in over 30 countries now. So I'll just list the top 5 countries here. So the UK, obviously.
I would think so.
Number 2 is
Ireland.
Then we've got the United States, Australia and New Zealand.
Have a nice trip back to Australia.
Apparently my homeland of Australia, because this week every single person I've spoken to thinks I'm Australian.
No, we're not from Australia. No, we are English.
And if you think that John Sullivan didn't have a good basis for that joke in Miami Twice, you're wrong, because Americans think every English person is Australian. So within the UK, we're actually being told by Apple that our top 5 cities are London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds and Bristol. So
it's so great.
If you're listening in those cities, you're in the top 5 cities.
That's brilliant, yeah. And I mean, also you can still email us on longlivehookeystreetpodcast@gmail.com. And now, if you want to, and we would greatly appreciate if you do want to, you can also buy us a pina colada at buymeacoffee.com. So as we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, Jenny and I are doing this out of love, but of course it is an awful lot of work. We spend a lot of time doing all the research. Jenny does all the research, and also I do all the editing, and that also takes a lot of time. And we want to continue doing this, but it would be lovely if we could get some financial support as well. As I said, it's all, on top of our regular day jobs as well. So yes, please, if you have any spare money, it's not much, it's just a coffee or just a pina colada in our case. And we've had a couple of people already buy those for us, which we really appreciate, and we'll give you a shout out later. So yeah, that's something you can do to financially support us if you want to. So all of the links for that social media, other places to stream, are on the channel pages and in our link tree, which can be found in the channel description on YouTube and Spotify, as well as on social media pages. And we'll try to remember to add them into the episode description too, if it makes it easier for people on their phones.
Yep, as always, and we'll just take another moment right now just to thank everybody from the bottom of our hearts for all the comments, messages, emails, likes, shares, and basically everything that you've done to help us grow the podcast up until this point. We've had so much fun making it, but obviously it does take up, like Heather said, an enormous amount of our time. So this really helps us to keep going.
Full ahead both, Rodney.
Yeah, definitely. So since we have so many comments and so many discussion points to go over for the Series 5 episodes, we're actually going to do the show history part first this time. So let's see how this works out.
Okay, let's begin. So after The Frog's Legacy aired on Christmas Day 1987, the beginning of 1988 actually brought many discussions regarding the show's future between John Sullivan, Gareth Gwenlyn, the current head of comedy, and Michael Grade, who was the controller of the BBC. If you remember, he was the one who had gotten them the big budget increase for To Hell and Back. So you've heard all these names before, but now we're coming to a bit of a discussion point here. And as we said at the end of The Frog's Legacy, there was a lot of uncertainty about whether the show was going to carry on after this. And Ray Butt leaving had actually he had told John Sullivan that maybe it's time to finish. So actually that having that voice in his ear, John Sullivan, you think he would have actually maybe considered it, because Ray Butt was one of the original show conception. He was a huge part of it. So maybe John Sullivan did feel a little bit lost here without Ray Butt. John Sullivan had basically said that he wasn't going to write any more episodes for the BBC until he could get a longer running time. So before leaving the BBC, Ray Butt said that he'd been pushing for the 45 to 50-minute episodes for a long, long time. He had gone to the previous controller of the BBC, Alan Hart, and pushed for the idea, which was turned down on the grounds that it would, quote, dilute the comedy. Ray said, they should have gone to the 50-minute episodes much earlier. We had to cut and throw away a lot of good stuff because John always overwrote, but John is a very astute writer, and he managed to use some of the cut material in future episodes, which we know definitely was the case because we've gone over the lines that were cut from one episode and put into another.
Yeah.
So we specifically mentioned it when we were recording A Royal Flush. That whole scene that was at the end that had a load of real classic lines all got brought forward into future episodes.
Yeah.
So, number one supporter of John Sullivan's longer episode time, David Jason. David Jason stood by John Sullivan's side, and they launched a joint campaign to lengthen the episode runtimes. Here is a quote from David Jason. We always cut what we thought was the weakest, and what would tend to go would be very good jokes, good situations and emotional stuff. All that would go because you couldn't cut into the actual narrative story. So we wanted them to do longer, but all the hierarchy kept saying was that's impossible because situation comedy is always 30 minutes. I'd say, yeah, that's other writers, that's not John Sullivan. That's a pretty great quote there from David Jason.
Yeah.
So the big wigs kept saying that this was standard BBC format, 30 minutes. They said they could cut anything into 30 minutes, and David Jason told them he'd seen some of their cutting and it was bloody rubbish. So David Jason remembers that it actually got heated. He says he got very frustrated and said to John Sullivan later, it's sacrilege, all for the sake of people saying it has to be standard. This is a huge frustration in life in general. Things being made standard for the sake of it. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Why does it have
rules
to be 30
for the
minutes?
sake of rules? Yeah, I hate that.
Who says that? Why does it have to be 30 minutes? So David Jason and John Sullivan went out for dinner where they agreed to stand together on the issue and said that they would not do any more episodes until the BBC agreed to the extra time.
Wow.
They only proposed 40 minutes at this time. Gareth Gwenlyn was taking over as the show producer from Ray Butt, and he agreed with the proposal in principle. But then they ran into the technical issue, such as the studio not having enough time to shoot, and the week-long time period that they had to produce and edit the episodes is not very long.
It's not.
Very tight. And they've had editing issues in the past. So now they have that problem, and then they also had the issue of the cast's contracts that were all written for 30 minutes only. So the idea seemed impossible at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that would have been quite stressful to have all that pressure of an extra 20 minutes. Because I said, even with the podcast editing, having a longer episode to edit, from now on, it's going to add significant time to the editing process. So I totally understand.
Yeah.
I'm having the same issue.
Exactly. And you know, 1 minute in editing time is like an hour in reality. So it's like,
Yes.
it might seem like not much to the viewer. It's like when we talked about taking 15 minutes out of Royal Flush. That is an enormous amount of time to edit.
It is.
You have no idea how hard that must have been for him, like to edit 15 minutes out. That's why he did all those little tiny cuts, and it was like the pauses were shorter and stuff.
Yeah.
Just the tiniest little things, yeah. So because Gareth Gwenlyn was behind the idea, he took the issue to the BBC controller, Michael Grade. He proposed 35 minutes, which is crazy. As if they were going to agree to that.
Yeah.
Grade did actually agree to that, but then he went back and told Sullivan to write a 35-minute script. So can you guess how long John Sullivan's first 35-minute script came out to?
Oh, he probably, just to take the piss, he probably did like an hour and a half or something.
His first attempt was an hour-long script.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
so Gwenlyn then went back to Sullivan. He asked for 50 minutes. And Gwenlyn said, I'm sure the controller would be delighted with 50 minutes, but we're in deep shit. We've got 6 Sundays in the studio to record them, and no one has ever recorded a 50-minute episode in one day.
Wow.
If you actually look at this now, it's amazing that this happened.
Yeah, really.
And I don't know how much you know about Series 6 filming, but it was insanely chaotic. I'll just preface this by saying that. So they had to increase the budget by 40%. They had to extend location filming, so they would end up shooting less in the studio and more outside because they couldn't get the studio time. But this actually didn't work too well for the last 3 episodes of Series 6, which are The Unlucky Winner Is, Sickness and Wealth, and Little Problems, because they were all studio-based episodes. There was no locations for these episodes.
Yeah.
Gwenlyn said it was a seriously difficult thing to do, and it nearly killed us. So, acknowledging that it was partly his fault, David Jason said, "We really shot ourselves in the foot. Nick and I nearly died. We had to work almost 24 hours a day. We stopped to sleep, and then we would get up at 6 a.m. to learn scripts, rehearse all day, come back, look at the next day's script. We were absolutely dead after the studio recordings on Sundays. Somebody actually suggested to David Jason after all this that they'd set a new standard that a show could be shot and produced so quickly, but he said he would never do it again."
What is it? The quote from Jurassic Park? They were so keen to see if they could. They didn't think to stop to see if they should.
Yeah. Right, yeah. I mean, and I don't even think that they were like trying to push the boundaries. They just didn't consider all those factors. So they were just like, oh, we want the longer time. But
I was going to say, you get so excited about an idea, you know, creating a show and all this sort of stuff. And I had a similar experience when I, you know, decided I was really excited to make a feature-length movie for the first time. And the amount of work, it took us 3 years to do it because it was so much work. And I was expecting to get it done in a year. I totally underestimated. And yeah, I think you do just get really caught up in things, excited. I mean, look at us with the podcast.
Yeah, I know. And now it's like, it really does take a lot of our time. Yeah.
But we love the podcast, so we're not complaining. But yes, you know, if you're passionate about something, you don't really think about how much effort and time it's going to take you when you actually start.
No, and it really, I mean, we should have known because when we were just doing the first 30-minute episodes, it was taking a long time, and we did think about it. We were like, what's going to happen when we get to like Miami Twice, which is like the longest episode. But yeah, so it takes us like right now, because I have to get up early and Heather has to stay up late just so we can record. Like there's no other way to do it. Well, I guess we could flip that, but I'm not very good at night.
Nah.
Heather's not very good in the morning.
No.
But though, so we will literally record from like, 7 a.m. my time to like 11 a.m. and Heather will have to stay up till like 2 a.m. just so we can record.
Yeah, like what time is it right now where you are, dude?
8:30
a.m. and it's 11:30 p.m. for me right now.
And we just started.
An idea.
Yeah, we could actually say what time it is when we finish, just so people have an idea of how long this takes us. Oh, and let's not forget that we have to find time that we're both free, and it has to be a weekend night for Heather, so it's got to be a night she's not going out, and it has to be a weekend morning for me. So yeah, it's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the plot. So at this point, we should probably talk about the new director. So Tony Dow, who we have mentioned many times throughout the podcast, strongly backed by John Sullivan and David Jason. He had been the production manager since To Hull and Back and present for all the shoots. It was very important to John Sullivan that the new director had experience that went beyond just staging gags. He wanted them to know the series inside out. Tony Dow didn't even know he was being suggested for the job at the time. And Gareth Gwenlyn actually did not want him to direct at first because he believed he was not experienced enough. He eventually did agree, but he sent him off packing to Elstree for a whole month on a drama director's course. He immediately then had to direct Top of the Pops and Blankety Blank and get gallery experience before he was allowed to direct Only Fools and Horses. He said it was pretty terrifying, but based on what we've just discovered and how quickly Series 6 was recorded and put together, it's a good thing he had all that experience.
Yeah, I mean, sink or swim a lot of the time. Again, drama is very like this. You know, you have to, well, not just drama, everything is. I mean, you know, I had 2 weeks of training before I started my first teaching job, and it was terrifying. But, you know, you getting thrown in the deep end, sometimes you can excel from having that sort of pressure to get everything done. If you work well under pressure, anyway.
Right, yeah. And from your point of view, because you have more experience with this than me, if he were there on all the shoots as the production manager, he kind of sees what the director does and learns a lot from the actual, like, Only Fools and Horses specific shoots as well, right? It's not like he just had formal training. The experience of being on the set for that long and going on all those location shoots in Hull and Holland and everything, he would have learned a hell of a lot doing that. So he was the perfect person for the job, and it's funny that he wasn't expecting to be put forward for it, but I think it's great.
I mean, some mighty big shoes to fill, though. That would have been a lot of pressure on him, I can imagine.
It's true. But Ray Butt did not direct every episode up until this point, did he? There were a lot of other directors that came in and did 3 or 4 here and there. So he would have seen all that going on too. So
yeah, true.
But his first episode was Dates, which is a pretty long episode. So we'll talk more about Tony Dow in the next episode. So the next major change for Series 6 was the location shooting moved permanently out of London. This is a huge one. So Bristol was the new London. They were having major shooting issues in London due to the popularity of the show and the actors. They would apparently get mobbed in the street, which doesn't surprise me, based on some of the stories I've heard the cast say about their years of getting recognised. So off went Tony Dow, John Sullivan, and Gareth Gwenlyn. No, wait, Bristol, to find their new locations. And they found all they needed, including the perfect block of flats. So here I found a note from Gareth Gwenlyn that he said the Residents Association for that block of flats were fantastic and always very supportive. He said that the Bristol police were very cooperative and supportive of their shoots. And they did have to occasionally drive big red buses around Bristol just to make it look like London.
That's so crazy that they had to go to that much effort and it was still easier than filming in London.
Yeah, definitely. And here I want to give a major shout out to a really great channel that you should follow, which is called My Only Fools and Horses. And Jason, it's his channel, and he does detailed, really amazing location tours. So you want to see all around that block of flats. He lives in Bristol, I think.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't get that wrong. But he's also visited locations all over the country that we have talked about. And so you can walk all around that block of flats with him and see the garages and the entrances and everything from Danger UXD. They're great videos. So subscribe to his channel and go and check that out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then our final big change for Series 6 was the major set change of the Nag's Head. I always noticed this as a kid and I could never put my finger on when it happened, but this is when it happened. So Tony Dow is a major factor in this. He said, I always hated the Nag's Head set. It was a ridiculous angle for filming because it was flat. You had no fourth wall. So if someone was talking to Mike at the bar, where do you put the actor so they're not looking at the audience? The new production designer, Graham Lau, designed the new set, and he said, moving around the Nag's Head made it so much easier to shoot the scenes. And we also knew we had to arrange for a side entrance to the bar to match the pub's exterior in the new location of Bristol, so we incorporated that. Which do you like better? The Nag's Head set?
I think the newer one is the one that I remember sort of growing up, because this was sort of when I watched episodes. I guess like Series 6 is the series I remember watching, I think, the most out of all of Only Fools and Horses. So I think this is like the set that I find the most comforting to see for me personally. And yeah, like space-wise, it is bigger and it has more flexibility for how you can film the scenes, definitely.
It's true. I mean, having the audience face the bar was always kind of weird, wasn't it, in the first few series? Because every time they had like anyone at the bar, they kind of had to use the side angles. Yeah. And if they had anybody at the front of the bar, they had you turn away from the barman to talk like to the audience. So yeah, it's true that like with a little bit of thought that this is so much better for filming, especially in front of a live studio audience, and not having to worry about where they're facing. They're talking across the bar instead of behind and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so finally, all the location filming for Series 6, which incidentally was referred to on paperwork as Series F, I have no idea why, and this does include dates, took place from November 6th to December 2nd, 1988. So that's so tight if you think about how much location filming there was for this series, including dates.
It's literally less than a month.
Yeah, and that's all of it. So yeah, studio scenes for dates were filmed between the 9th and the 11th of December 1988, and the remaining studio recordings took place on consecutive Saturdays and Sundays, which started December 17th. They then skipped Christmas and New Year, so they were still recording episodes after Series 6 started airing.
Crazy.
The unlucky winner is Sickness and Wealth and Little Problems were filmed in just 2 days in the studio. So we will discuss that more as we get to those episodes.
That is crazy. I mean, tight filming schedules, of course, you know, a lot of shows are done like that. I remember when Coronation Street switched to having more episodes in the week, and everyone was saying, like, holy crap, the filming schedule went crazy, and some of the actors that we were in old Coronation Street, like, couldn't handle it. I remember when Julie Goodyear came back for a special, and she said, like, she literally left in the middle of her storyline because she couldn't deal with the filming schedule. And yeah, I mean, kudos to the actors for pulling it off. Like, if you didn't know all this stuff from behind the scenes, which I didn't until you just said it, you would never notice all this stress. Like, they were so professional, and the episodes are, as we'll talk about when we get to the episodes, in my opinion, some of the greatest, not just episodes of Only Fools and Horses, but some of the greatest episodes of British comedy ever filmed in Series 6.
Yeah,
you know? It's,
right?
Yeah.
Look at Little Problems, the last one to be filmed.
Yeah, amazing, really.
Think about how drained everybody was at that point when that was filmed. Yeah, it's insane.
Maybe that scene with Del in the bathroom was just from him filming.
Yeah. Right.
That's just what he looked like after he'd done this schedule. So, okay, well, I mean, that's really interesting stuff. So, yeah, let's move on a little bit here, though, and just quickly go over some of the main news headlines during this time period. So these cover 1988, leading up to Christmas, when Dates was aired, and we'll add in the December headlines into the Dates episode, since that one was a big Christmas special.
February 1988 marked the beginning of several important strikes throughout the UK. Nurses throughout the UK went on strike for higher pay and more funding for the NHS. Nearly 7,000 ferry workers also went on strike in Britain, which paralysed the nation's seaports.
On the 5th of February, the first BBC Red Nose Day
Comic relief or something.
raised £15 million for charity.
Wah! That's amazing. On the 11th of March, the Bank of England £1 note ceased to be legal tender. I never remember having a £1 note, but you remember seeing one in Christmas crackers.
Yes, Chris. Yeah, the stuff I said looked like Monopoly money. That's what I remember. So yeah, never ever saw those either. Moving forward to July 29th, the Education Reform Act kicked in the UK, beginning what we still know today as the National Curriculum.
Yeah, and that's what we went to school with, the National Curriculum. Yeah. So here's one Dell will like. On the 22nd of August, new licensing laws allow pubs to stay open all day in England and Wales.
Yeah. So on September 17th, Great Britain and Northern Ireland competed at the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul, South Korea. They won 5 gold, 10 silver, and 9 bronze medals.
And finally, on November 30th, a government report revealed that up to 50,000 people in Britain may be HIV positive, and that by the end of 1992, up to 17,000 people may have died from AIDS. So I know we've had a couple of references to this, and we will circle back on those in the comments, but we were wondering exactly when this became major headline news, because we know it's referred to several times throughout Only Fools and Horses, but it does particularly come up in Series 6 and beyond.
Yes.
So that's why I added this one in here, just because of the reference in Sickness and Wealth, and then future Rodney Come Home. That's it for now for major headlines. Okay, so let's move on to comments and episode discussions now, shall we, dude?
Okay, yes, let's do that. First of all, a massive shout out to those of you who have brought us pina coladas on Buy Me a Coffee. A huge thank you to Fran Evans, our parents, Killian Donahue, and Rachel Fleming. We genuinely thank you very, very much from the bottom of our hearts. If anyone wants any more information about this, these are virtual pina coladas or coffee. So it's basically a website that essentially allows you to give us a tip or show us a little bit of extra appreciation for the hours of work behind the podcast. And of course, completely optional, non-essential, but it definitely helps us to continue putting in the hours that we have been to create these episodes for you. Especially important now since we are going back into a very busy time for both of us. So we do want to keep on putting out one episode every week. So thank you very, very much again to the donors up till this point.
It meant the world to us.
So we got a lot more comments on our Series 5 videos than we did on any of our other series. So we don't have time to address every comment that was made, but we've decided to highlight a few to respond to. And before we start Series 5, we do have to talk about the last 2 episodes of Series 4, since we always record the wraps a few weeks before the previous series ends. So, dude, let's talk about As One Door Closes.
Okay, yeah, just a couple of quick points for As One Door Closes. So, listeners were baffled, and probably quite rightly, that neither of us knew who Sebco was. So, in particular, our listeners Ed McKay and Ian Biles both pointed out to us who he is and why it's quite shocking that we don't know. And I'll just go ahead right here and clarify that maybe why, and you can probably chime in here, dude. But for me, as far as knowing him as a major sports personality, I'm not surprised. There's no way I would know him as a sports personality.
No.
With regards to his political advancements, some of which appear to have been recent years, I think you agree with me that when you move to another country, you become immersed in their own news and mainstream politics, and you kind of don't look back at your old country.
Yeah.
I have not really read much UK news, so I guess if I ever did know who he was, it's just been pushed to the back of my mind. I live in the US. The news here is insane. I try to avoid the news as much as I can. I read the essential headlines. But now, yeah, we're both fully aware of who he is, and that he is currently the president of World Athletics, a former member of parliament, and a world record-breaking athlete. So now I know more about Sebco than I think I ever need to know.
Yes. So thanks for that.
Yes. And then our listener, John CCF2797, just let us know last week that Del and Albert mentioned the TV show The Professionals, and that Roger Lloyd Pack was actually in an episode of The Professionals, playing a professional hitman. So I thought that's quite an interesting link there. That was in 1978.
So let's now go on to Hull and back and talk about some of the comments that we got on that video.
Okay, yeah. So we're just going to mention this one first because this is his favorite episode. So our fairly new listener, full name Bernard the GWP. So I'm just going to call him Bernard from now on. This is his favorite episode. So I'll just put what he said about it real quick. So he thinks this episode's great, even allowing for the plot holes that we did discuss. He said that when he was at home recovering from an operation, he bought the video of this and he watched it during his recovery. So, and he had laughed so hard that he had to be careful. He got a copy of this signed by David Jason, which was really cool.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think quite a lot of people commented on the memories of Christmas Day and the airing, which we talked about, of the Minder versus Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
So he pointed out, yeah, that a lot of people were actually very gutted about that clash. Several other people mentioned about it.
Yeah.
Scott remembered that in his household he was only 11, but there was quite a lot of arguments about that. So I think, like, in general, yeah, people did remember that being a conflict, and we talked about that quite a lot, and we weren't sure if people would remember, but it's really cool that they did.
Yeah.
We have Doctor Who TV fan. He said that we mentioned Back to the Future, and that was an interesting link because Christopher Lloyd, who is, you know, obviously the main character in Back to the Future, he actually did play Grandad in the American version of Only Fools and Horses, which did not get off the ground. But
No,
you could watch it. I think the Only Fools and Horses Appreciation Society have on their channel have a video of the episode. I think it was a pilot or the only one made. It's called King of Van Nuys. Have you ever watched it?
No, I've never watched Only Fools and Horses US remake, but I've watched the Fawlty Towers one.
Oh,
that was terrible.
I didn't even know there was.
Yeah.
One.
I had to look at it out of curiosity. It's really not good.
It
doesn't work at all.
I watched the Red Dwarf one and it was terrible, but I think Jane Leaves was in it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Some things just don't work. They only work in British humor. I'm not sure, or British accents. I'm not sure what it is. It's just, I think whenever you try to copy something, it has, you know, a very low success rate.
This is the problem with this one, in my opinion. I actually responded to the comment on YouTube, but here's my main observation of this. I was playing back our podcast, and my husband was like, I think you said something wrong. You said fly pitchers. You meant fly fishing, right? And I was like, no, fly pitching. And he's like, what's fly pitching? And I was like, fly pitching, that's what Del does. He's a fly pitcher. And my husband's like, what's a fly pitcher?
Yeah.
There is your reason why this does not work in the US.
Yeah.
Fly pitching isn't a thing. The problem with the American version is John Leguizamo, who plays Del, he's a Latino actor. The whole character of Del in the American version is a suave kind of used car salesman. It's nothing like a British used car salesman. The concept of the show doesn't work in the US. It's totally different.
Yeah.
It's not the same show. And they also made the Rodney character very weird and kind of just like doof. I mean, he is doofy, but he's not Rodney. Just watch it.
Yeah.
And you'll see what I'm talking about.
For how terrible it is.
And Christopher Lloyd, I mean, come on, he's amazing. He is actually really funny in this US version, but he's not a granddad.
No.
Again, it just doesn't work. It's very hard to explain why. So just go ahead and watch it. You'll see.
Yeah, I never understand why people want to remake amazing shows. Why don't you remake something that was terrible and make it better? Like, why do you want to remake something and try to top the original that was so good? Why would you do that, or make something as equally as good to the original?
I don't think
it doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't think they're trying to top it. I just think they're going with a concept that's been successful and running with it. But I don't. Do you know how many countries Only Fools and Horses was remade in?
Oh, I'm sure a lot.
I mean, I actually can't remember, and I wish I had the book here. But in the back of the lovely Jubbly book, there's a whole page on it, and it's in 30 something countries, maybe more.
I think if you remake it in sort of like any other country that, let's say, that English isn't the main language, I think most people wouldn't compare it to the British version because there's just something so different about it. But when America remakes something British, or when Britain makes something that was originally American, it always is heavily compared to the original because obviously the countries are considered quite similar in a lot of ways. And I think that that's probably why maybe it's a little bit more difficult to try and do an American remake of Only Fools and Horses than it is.
Although, having said what I just said, I would say several times in history that it has been successful. So let's use the one most successful obvious example, which is the US Office, which ended up being more arguably, well, it was definitely longer running. I don't know whether I can say it was more successful because the UK Office was obviously very successful and it's the same producers,
Yeah.
But the US Office ended up running for a really long time, and a lot of people say it's better than the original. But again, the two aren't comparable to me because they're two very different shows, but they're both really good. So the only time that it works is if you accept the cultural differences and you just have the very original concept, but then you change everything else because you can't put Del in the US and make it the same. It's not going to work.
No, exactly.
So, if anyone has any other shows that they think the foreign adaptation was better than the original or comparable, let us know below, because at the moment, the only one that's coming into my head is The Office, but I know there are others that have actually been successful. So, and then sometimes you love a show and you find out that it is actually an adaptation of a foreign show.
True.
So that's actually another really interesting point, and I think it should always give credit to the original. So one of our listeners, Dan Slider, who's actually from Hull, was able to let us know a couple of the locations we didn't mention, and I'm sure the My Only Fools and Horses channel will cover these too. So when Denzel pulls up, it says it's on, so this is outside when he talks to Del in the market, I assume he's talking about here. He says it's John Street, which is just off Charles Street. And the fire doors of the New Clarence pub are visible on the left when Del and Rodney walk off. So that's just a little bit more location information that we did not include. So thank you for that. Our listener Sanjeet let us know that John Chalice was also in an episode of Citizen Smith, which I don't think we have ever mentioned. So that's really so he knew him a long time ago, unless we did mention that in Go West Young Man, but I don't think we did. And he also agreed that Roy and Parker were the plonkers of the week. Not agreed because we didn't make them the plonkers, did we? But he said they are the plonkers for not seeing the van when it was like parked right next to them, and they're all like, where are the trotters? I haven't seen them. Sanjeet also talked about his family's discussions on Christmas Day with Minder, so that's also pretty interesting. So Scott let us know that the guy on the oil rig, the actor's name was David Fleischman, who was better known for actually being one of the DHSS guys in Alan Beesdale's Boys from the Black Stuff, which is mentioned in Only Fools and Horses, when Del says when Rodney is hungover. I think he says like "Boys from the Black Stuff's about" or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting. And then our a couple of our listeners, Joshua and Killian, both noted this inconsistency between To Hull and Back and Class of 62, which I think is pretty interesting. In the first scene of To Hull and Back, they say that Slater's dad is dead, right?
Yes.
And that Roy's becoming a policeman is what finished him off.
Yeah.
But then years down the line, Roy says that while he was in prison, his dad passed away.
Yeah.
So little bit of a mistake, I guess.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't notice that, actually. That's a really good catch. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I would have thought I would have noticed, but yeah, I didn't. So
Yeah,
good catch.
we didn't notice that. So, okay, let's move on then, dude.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about From Prussia with Love.
Okay, yeah, so several of our listeners let us know that it is actually in Little Problems when Del is messing with the phone, which changes the channel in the background, because we did question that about the phones. Also, many of our followers let us know that how popular Dynasty was, because we did kind of question that. We were like, is Dynasty really popular? Because for some reason it's mentioned in From Prussia with Love and A Miracle of Beckham. So yeah, Wolves7655, Snowy Matrix, and Ray let us know that by 1986 it was very popular. This is just something we didn't know because we were little kids at the time and we never watched it. Our listener Ian also let us know that Dallas was very popular, because that is mentioned by Grandad, I think, a couple of times. And a lot of people will remember this Who Shot JR storyline that was apparently massive. So again, something we know nothing about, but I'm sure a lot of you guys do. So again, Ray said that this is just a little bit about Erica Hoffman and her German. So she plays an English-speaking German, and she has a very German name. And I thought she was German when I was a kid. Did you, dude?
Yes, I did.
He said, yeah, that saying please actually does make sense, because it's a direct translation of the German bitte, which they do say. But he thinks it's a bit strange the way that she refers to the baby and doesn't say the before the baby, because it's not characteristic of how German speakers speak. So again, it might have been, that might have just been direction. She might have been told to say baby, like instead of the baby. But yeah, it's true. Like, in my experience, because I've worked with German lady who spoke English as her second language, and her English was almost perfect.
Yeah, I've got to say, my experience with Europeans,
Yeah.
usually they have perfect English if they speak English.
Yeah, and I actually have a friend who's a really good German. She's a really good friend who is German, and her English is better than most English people I know. But yeah, if Anna were a language student, she would have said the baby, not baby, all the way through.
Yes, true.
So no worries about that, though. Couple of comments here on the Del and Boise one-upmanship. So again, I think it might be quite interesting to do an episode on this later after we finish all the episode breakdowns, where we tally up who should win. Like, because Del is always being like, I'm going to get one over on Boise, and Boise's always like, Del took me up about this. So
Yeah,
it
true.
might be quite cool to do that in the future. So several people mentioned that. Our listener Carl pointed out that the Up the Duff line is getting laughter because it's very obvious that Anna is up the duff, and Albert comes in and tells them as if it's a unknown. Yeah, we focus too much on the origin of up the duff. We didn't. That's why it gets such a laugh. It's not because the term up the duff is funny. It's because Albert's like, unless I'm very much a singer.
Yes.
She's
Do you know why that I focused on that? Because for once I decided to do a little bit of research.
Yeah, I know, and you forgot about everything else. Yeah, it's true that I normally look everything up, and then if Heather has any questions, she can just ask me, because that's the way that we agreed to do it. It's not that I know anything more than Heather. It's just because I look everything up.
Yeah, if Jenny we should do 1 week where I do the research and Jenny edits. You'll really see the difference.
No, because I don't have any experience editing.
Exactly. That's why, and my research will be terrible. So it will be a very interesting episode.
Yeah, let's not do that. Maybe we could do that for the 2000 specials. 'Cause I don't know if I'm going to be motivated to do the research for those.
True. Okay, so yeah, let's talk now about the Miracle of Peckham.
Okay, so first of all, let's address my incredibly terrible pronunciation of not Southwark, but Suffolk.
To be fair, you asked me how to pronounce it and I didn't know either.
It's true, and I did say I know that this is not right, but this is how it reads. So thanks to everybody that pointed that out. An interesting one here, Ray said that the plotline might have been influenced by the stories of moving statues in Ireland. That's true. Yeah, it could easily have been. I can't read the whole comment, but yeah, that's interesting. He also said here that the vicar is better referred to as a priest, as the church in question is Catholic.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
So yeah, they don't actually say vicar in the episode. That was just us saying that. And I think most times I said father because I knew he was Del said the father, or it's called him father.
Yeah.
But we kept saying vicar, so that could quite easily have been wrong. Sanjeet said that they laugh at the Peckham Echo because Rodney mentions all these huge newspapers like Reuters and TASS and then goes Peckham Echo. So yeah, that's why I think we skated over that. So then Mia said actually that they showed this episode in her school class in religious studies, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, that is hilarious. What a great religious studies teacher you must have.
And I remember that our school showed Life of Brian in RE.
Yeah.
Which I look back now and I think RE teachers showing these things is hilarious. They must have just run out of lesson plans, right? If I was a teacher, I'd be show like an old Monty Python movie as a class.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, you can get away with talking about anything in religious studies class because you can always relate it back to morality, and that usually goes back to religion somewhere. So yeah,
right.
I think that would be easy enough to do. You could put on any movie and then talk about it from a religious point of view. Okay, so now we're going to talk about The Longest Night.
Okay, yeah, this one, biggest one here is the Dixon of Kuala Lumpur. It was a reference to Dixon of Dock Green, which was a BBC police procedural that ran from 1955 to 1976, starring Jack Warner. I want to give everyone credit that pointed out to us, but we got so many messages about this. I don't have time to list everybody that told me this, but yeah, I now know that. I had never heard of it, but to be honest, I googled Dixon of Kuala Lumpur and it didn't come up, obviously, because why would it? But I think you just had to know about that show to be able to find out that reference. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of the references I link up, I actually get them from Reddit. I didn't look at this one on Reddit, so that's probably why I didn't get it. Our listener Jamie Smith-Vox supported our idea for audience pick of the week for the best line and episode, but we would actually have to do proper polls, I think, on YouTube to get that started, but maybe we'll be able to think about that in the future.
Yeah, we haven't figured out a way to do that yet.
But Jamie did actually highlight the fact that he had never noticed either that the during the war hadn't been set up until this point, and now we're all the way up to we've already recorded quite far ahead, so I don't think we've hit where he first says during the war yet, but a lot of you were probably really surprised like we were to know that Albert was in it for at least 2 full series before during the war was ever said. So
yeah,
that's pretty interesting. Our listener Carl pointed out that one of the big plot holes in this episode is that his wife would have been wondering where he was. So I guess the only way you could explain, this is a store manager I'm talking about,
yes,
why he wasn't home for his entrecotrioca. So I guess we'll just have to assume that maybe she was in on the plan. That's the only way I can explain that.
Could be. Maybe she was calling him to be an alibi.
So also, if you remember here in The Longest Night, Heather and I disagreed on what Rodney's facial expression meant by the end of the "Nor was Rodney" speech. So Killian said that my take on the "it's a tough old world" line is that it highlights the sheer pointlessness of all of Rodney's work over the years, as after all that he's in the same boat as little Lennox. So that's an interesting one. Yeah, maybe he's annoyed when he pulls that face. He's like, you're right, I'm no better off than Lennox.
Yeah, could be that.
Yeah,
that's absolutely true.
Snowy Matrix said that Rodney does all of Del's donkey work for little or no pay, so that's why when Lennox says he hasn't done a day's work in his whole life, Del's silence is kind of deafening, and that's why Rodney looks annoyed. So it seems like a lot of us read that differently. Heather thought it was disappointment, but I thought it was just like, don't you dare say I haven't done a day's work since I left school, Del.
Yeah, I mean, this is again the wonderful thing about comedy and Only Fools and Horses is that there are so many ways to read moments, and you find the humor in your own interpretation of that moment. So yeah, it's lovely.
Right, exactly. A quick one to address here, because this is just purely an editing mistake. Not a mistake. When I said it, I guess it had to get cut out for some reason, but we did know that the Lennox Shadow poem was from the Scarlet Pimpernel. It's just we didn't really highlight that we know that. So
yeah, sorry, that was probably an editing choice on my part. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's okay, no worries. Okay, you want to move on?
Okay, so yeah, let's move on to T for 3.
Okay, so Ray made a nice comment here, so I'm just going to read most of it, that he had no idea that Del was referring to what a Swanvesta was when he first watched the episode, but he always found it funny and he laughed anyway. And that's indicative of the great writing of John Sullivan. And you don't necessarily need to get the jokes. You still find it funny. And it's a tribute to the acting. So any scene where Del is gloating at Rodney's missteps and we can see the differing facial expressions of both is inevitably hilarious, because David Jason and Nick Lyndhurst really have that sibling rivalry dynamic so perfectly nailed down that the dialogue is actually secondary to their acting. So
Yeah.
I think we can all agree with that, and that's pretty much something that we've said all the way through, but just articulated better than how we've said it.
Yes.
It's basically just there are so many more things in To Only Fools and Horses than just the script or just David Jason. It's all of this kind of, it's hard to put your finger on the right word, but it's just this, like, the way that they...
It's magic.
Yeah.
It's the lightning in a bottle thing, isn't it? Only Fools and Horses.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of people commented on the tea versus dinner discussion. Yeah, I didn't really know how to best articulate this, but it's basically a regional thing. Mr. Poptit said the tea is more of a northern thing, not much use in London and the south, which I think is true. Yeah, so Old School Fool said the dinner-tea debate revolves around the working day. Dinner for a working person only affords time for a little sustenance, with the other half day's work to come to anything substantial would weigh heavy. Thus, the main meal shifts to what would traditionally be tea time. So yeah, this is like I remember this from when I was a kid. Saying tea for dinner is something that I said when I was a kid. I would never say it now.
No, I don't think I would now. I'd always say dinner now.
But I'm trying to remember, did mom and dad say tea for dinner?
Yeah, tea time meant dinner time, definitely, when we were growing up.
Yeah. So a few comments on that. You can still add comments, by the way, anybody. We're not going to be able to address them, but... So Scott said that Lisa's hairstyle changed overnight between the dinner and the hang gliding. And when I was a kid, I thought this was a different actress.
Yes.
Because of how different her hair was. Did you?
Yeah.
Or at least I was like,
I did a little
look
bit.
anything like Lisa. But I will say, as a woman, that's a woman. It's actually, you can curl your hair one night and it'd be flat the next day.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe if it's just that her hair was curled and then it isn't curled. Yeah, that's very normal, I think, for women.
Yeah, of course it happens.
Yeah.
Also, he pointed out, Scott said that Rose of Peckham was actually another brand of matches. I didn't know that either.
No, me neither.
I thought Del just pulled that out of his ass. So why so many matches brands in this scene? So this is Rachel's favorite 30-minute episode, and she agreed with us, as well as many other people agreed with us, that Lisa is the plonker. But it makes sense because she is a member of the Trigger family, which I think we all keep forgetting that they are the same family. So they're all related to Trigger. Killian let us know that song at the beginning, because we didn't say what it was, is a song called I Who Have Nothing. And yeah, as soon as he let us know that, I listened to it on YouTube, sung by Tom Jones. And I was like, oh yeah, that song. Yeah. So, and then finally, for 2 for 3, Sanjeet said he was amazed that Nick Lyndhurst was able to keep a straight face during the sunburn scene where he comes out with the cheese and says, only when I smile. So he said there was actually a comedy series set in a hospital called Only When I Laugh. So I guess it's a common comedy line. But you're right, yeah. Again, and Nick Lyndhurst kept a straight face during the Wendy House line. Yeah. I almost feel like David Jason was able to crack up more than Nick Lyndhurst because he always had that
I was going to say, yeah. I'm trying to even think of a moment off the top of my head where it looked like Nick Lyndhurst was about to laugh. I can think of a few for David Jason, but Nick Lyndhurst, I can't think of any right now.
Well, I think I said in our series introduction episode that the walk and wall line.
Oh, right.
But that sound, it almost felt like he really was cracking up when he said that. But now I think back and I'm like, Nick Lyndhurst never did. No. Although it says in all the books that he did all the time crack up with David Jason. But yeah, like you said, there's loads of times when you see David Jason, little tiny, what do they call it? Corpsing? Yeah. They say that when they break out into laughter, yeah, like you can see a lot with, and I always thought it helped with the naturalness of the acting.
Yeah, but yeah, because you would laugh if he said something funny in real life.
Yeah, but in scenes like this and in the Wendy House, when Rodney's supposed to be annoyed, he always is so good because it's not just the actors laughing, it's the entire studio audience.
Yeah, totally agree.
So Nick Lyndhurst had to walk into the room in that suit with the red face and the cheese. Yeah, and keep a completely straight face while all the audience were very
look pissed off. Yeah, absolutely.
And all those funny lines, and probably that what's her name, the actress She was cracking up so much as well. It must have been so difficult. Yeah. So kudos to Nick Lyndhurst there. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about Video Nasty.
Okay, so Bernard said that they actually do show the episodes on ITVX. I think that's really important to understand. He says that they're full episodes, unlike Gold, not ruined by cutting so-called insensitive scenes with words like Jaffa and Nufta still intact. So there you go. Yeah, if you want to watch the full episodes. I think a few people have mentioned that ITVX doesn't cut them, so that's great. Isn't it kind of funny that it's being shown on ITV after all of these
I know,
years? Yeah.
so weird.
Hilarious. I just don't associate Only Fools and Horses with ITV. But
no.
Ian Turner let us know that before the advent of home recorders in the late 70s, men would often crowd into the back rooms of pubs to watch what were known then as stag movies, usually shown on a reel-to-reel projector. So there you go. Yeah. This is a real reference.
I don't think I'm happier for knowing that actually was a thing.
I mean, I think I
would prefer to believe it was fiction.
I kind of am happy to know that it's a reference to something because we did think it was so weird, didn't we? That it's an anniversary pie and all the men.
And I still do think it's weird, but even more horrified now that it actually does happen.
No, I mean,
or did happen.
I think it's totally believable that it happened. So yeah. Because where else would he have got this idea? Maybe this is something his dad did or something. Or maybe he did in his youth. I don't know. Listener Rose let us know that, or she said that she finds it so interesting that nowadays older generations say everyone gets offended nowadays. However, actually the same generation were writing all these complaints to Sullivan, and it's true.
Yeah.
The only reason that we think this happens more now is because of the internet.
Yeah, true.
People were fucking annoyed in those days too, and they were constantly complaining about stuff. They just didn't have Facebook and stuff to go on then, but they were still angry about everything.
Yeah, every single generation complains. It's just they complain about different things. They find different things offensive. Absolutely.
Yeah, and its sensitivity is the thing that's in every generation. You can't say, I mean, I think honestly, the older generation obviously were a lot more hardy than us. Like, we are not a tough generation. They went to war for us.
You can see the bomb damage on some of them.
But though, to be honest, I mean, I don't know about you, dude, but I feel like it's, for me, as I get older, I'm more sensitive. I wasn't as sensitive when I was younger.
Yeah,
I think I just got older and I grew into it more. I don't know.
I feel like, as well, I don't know, I also feel like you do get a little bit more conditioned by society to find things offensive because everyone else does as well.
Yeah.
Like, I feel, it's like the Royal Flush effect, that the episode was fine until I found out everybody didn't like it. And I was like, I started looking at it differently. And I think that does happen with language. It happens with, lots of things that you kind of find out everyone's mad about something. And then you look into it and you're like, oh yeah, I suppose that is kind of bad.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a little bit of influence there. I mean, obviously I assume everyone tries not to be like a sheep and follow along the masses and sort of go with the flow. But I think it's just a tendency that, things trend and you kind of get sucked into it and you form your opinions a lot of the times based on what the masses think. Unfortunately, that's just kind of difficult to get away from.
Exactly. Yeah, you're totally right. It's like a validation effect.
And to go against the masses is quite difficult to do, right? With certain opinions.
Exactly. Yeah, honestly. And even if you and I make a comment in this podcast, it's going to be somebody that's going to be like, well, I don't agree with that. And you're like 99% more likely to say you don't agree with something than you agree.
Yeah.
I think, the cumulative effect of going on social media or seeing these like kind of opinion pieces in the media, it makes you think something or makes you kind of think along a thought kind of passage that you wouldn't have thought before. So
absolutely.
It definitely isn't unique to this day and age. It's just nowadays it's more of an echo chamber.
It is. And it's very rare nowadays that you see somebody talking about an issue in a balanced way, in a nuanced way, where they're talking about both sides of the issue equally.
Yeah.
Usually you just see one side being like, this other side is terrible and this side is perfect. Everything I'm saying is right. It's very difficult to see nuance in any conversation now, which is always one of the reasons we want to start a podcast, right? So we could sort of have some discussion and, actually have nuanced conversations because it's so rare to have them these days.
And in those days, of course, your only option, if you had something that you were upset about, was to actually take out a piece of paper, go around your house, find a pen, sit down, actually write a letter. Like nowadays, you don't even have to move.
My God,
like you could just,
writing a letter.
Yeah, you could just sit in the same place you are right now, whip out your phone and write like a massive complaint and have thousands of people see it within seconds. So things are different. It doesn't mean we're getting more offended. Yeah. Okay, so then PDGT said the camera continuity issue where Rodney walks out of the kitchen has always irritated him
Yes.
with this episode. Same as Heather. So Mickey would be filming with the camera, so we would have seen Rodney come out of the kitchen at a different angle.
Yeah, absolutely
The angle
right.
we see is the BBC's camera, unless
Yeah.
the BBC was involved in this Mickey Pierce production.
Oh, no. The BBC was making stag films.
No! I'm going to get some complaints from the BBC for that.
Disclaimer, that is not factual. we don't mean to say that about the BBC. It's a joke.
The BBC's a joke?
A disclaimer, we don't mean to say the BBC's a joke.
Okay,
Cancelled.
don't get cancelled. Okay, so Calvin Mark Payne said B-Jams is what became Iceland. Didn't know that. We did say it was
I
a
didn't
phrase.
know that, yeah.
I actually really loved it.
Okay, cool.
Do you remember when we went to Iceland in our trip recently?
Oh, yeah.
And we got stuck in the
was
store
great.
because they have in the little one in Wales. Is it in London? No. They have like
Yeah.
a one-way system, and we tried to get back out and we couldn't. So we're like forced through the checkout. So, yeah.
Wow.
Nice sales tactics, Iceland.
Fascinating
Yeah.
story.
I thought it was quite funny because we were like, can we just leave? And we're like, no, you have to go out through the exit and buy something. That's pretty
So we decided to start doing what Lennox did and start opening things, and they chucked us out through the entrance.
Yeah.
It was all good.
And I was like, very reasonable, isn't it? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Some enchanted evening.
La, 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 la.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, so on to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Okay. So we should have mentioned this while we were doing it, and I don't know why we didn't. John Sullivan was a used car salesman. It was one of his jobs before he was, while he was writing, I guess, because he was always a writer. It was like, because I think we talked about John Sullivan's history before, and he did like a ton of stuff, kind of, jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this might not be the reason, because like we know that being a used car salesman kind of type was an influence for Dell. Like the guy that Dell was based on was a used car salesman.
Yeah.
So that's actually, why not have him go off to do that as his like end game job, right? So I don't know why I didn't mention that. That's just something I thought of. That's not from the comments. Back to the comments. Dipstick was definitely used before this episode.
Wow. Sorry,
Plenty
everyone.
of people pointed that out. So Devian Trake said dipstick was used in the Long Legs of the Law. That could have been the first one. Yeah, when he
That could, and we might have even mentioned it. It's been so long since we recorded that episode. I can't
know.
remember.
we are
But,
pretty
yeah.
jaded.
But thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Jaded.
Joshua Swain said that it's definitely into Hullenbach. Very true. When he's driving the boat. Yeah. Moving on, Heather asked if Foster's was around. Ray pointed out it was available in the UK from the early 1970s. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Scott said that Hot Rod sounds awful and he's glad it never happened. This reminded me of a point I meant to make. Isn't it funny that Nick Stringer and Hot Rod were both in Go West Young Man, and then Nick Stringer and the idea to continue Hot Rod were both in this episode. I think that's quite funny. Yeah, that's just my own little observation there. And a few people mentioned that they feel bad that Patrick Murray could have been more famous than he was if Hot Rod had taken off. We mentioned
Unless
that,
it had been a failure, then it would have been wow for
yeah,
his career.
but it could have been
so.
like Green Going Grass, and I'd like, how many series did Green Going Grass have? A ton.
I don't know. I never watched it. Never watched the Green Grass.
Nor did I, but it had more series than Only Fools and Horses, didn't it?
I don't know.
Put it in
Maybe.
the comments. I can't remember. I know it's got quite a lot of series. So Wolves pointed out, I left off the numbers, so I'm sorry. I don't think it matters. Our fan Wolves, his ranking is way higher than ours, and he says that's the beauty of opinions, and that's what we're really trying to get into here is like our rankings are kind of not that important. We're reading them out because we think it's interesting. But yeah, it's the beauty of opinions. We all have so many. So this is in Wolves' top 5 because of the, the poignancy and the comedy in the one episode, which we definitely talked about.
Yeah.
Our listener, Richard James, actually let us know that the 49-51 split thing is not anything to do with the usual uneven split of money. It just proves that that Jumbo is actually a competent, sensible businessman, which is an argument for why maybe things would have worked out, because Dell wasn't really he's a good businessman, but not in the way Jumbo would have been.
It's just interesting the way that it's worded, because he says we'll split it 50-50, and then he said I get 51%, you get 49. If he hadn't said we'll split it 50-50 I think this would have made more sense to me. But yeah, just the fact that he said it's right down the middle and then it's not technically.
Yeah.
That was why I
Well, I
kind of
think
pointed it
also,
out.
yeah, and you pointed out Del must have misunderstood because he says they'll both get 51%. So Del doesn't understand the
Yes.
sense in this case. But yeah, Richard pointed out that, you can't have 50-50 in business because that's deadlock and Jumbo knows that. So it's actually a good way of pointing out that Jumbo.
I mean, yeah, if I was Jumbo, I wouldn't just give away half of my wealth to somebody. I would also want to keep a little bit of the power. So that does make sense, yes, from a business point of view.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, so our listener, The Last Supper, pointed out that why Jumbo didn't just go straight to see Del. Yeah, he did need to assure the deal was in place for Boise with the cars first before he brought it up with Del. So that's reasonable. Although, one point that I could make off of the back of that is, did he know for sure that Del was still living in the same area? Because he didn't reach out before. He flew all the way from Australia, didn't even check that Del was still around and stuff. Unless he asked Boise. We don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Del could have been dead as well. Like, anything can happen in that
Anything can
amount of
happen.
time. So you just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then our listener Rose had an unpopular opinion that she thinks it's unpopular, but she thinks that Del wouldn't have made it in Australia.
He said that he would have gotten up to his old tricks and he would have been doing like some dodgy dealings again and he would have like screwed things up. I mean, it's absolutely possible and we'll never know, right? I mean, he may have rose to the occasion but then to be fair, to back up what Rose said is when they do become millionaires, they lose it all on doing stupid schemes and investing in dodgy things or bad things. So maybe, yes, that's apt that he would have not succeeded.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's a completely fair point. We love that one. So, okay, let's move on to our last one that we're going to be reviewing today because Frog's Legacy has not come out for us at the time that we are doing this.
So the last one we're going to talk about is a royal flush. Now, we've had so many comments on this one, so we're going to have to just wheedle it down to a few so we don't go on forever.
This is tricky because, we're getting comments still, like right now, literally as we're recording this. I'm seeing comments coming in, so I don't know really what to talk about, but let's just go with the first thing that I wrote down here, which was along the lines of suggesting that Del was getting revenge on Rodney for ruining his future in Australia from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. The drugs is what stopped him going, right? Rodney's drug charge.
Yes.
So it kind of does back up that story there. Joshua thinks we don't like Vicky. I think you were a lot harder on Vicky than me.
To be fair as well, I do seem to, and it's fair to notice this, I have a slight prejudice against posh people. You may notice, which is ironic because somebody pointed out that Jenny and I sound posh.
No, they said we're too posh to be talking about Only Fools and Horses. So I get this is goodbye, everyone. We're too posh. So no more episodes from now on.
I would say we would be considered middle class in the UK from our upbringing, but I don't know I don't think we'd be considered middle class now because
how are we middle
the class
class?
system
We
is
went
completely
to public school just like everybody else.
Like but we lived in like a nice house and stuff. And Mum, I don't remember. Well, I mean, I don't know if Mum and Dad had any problems with finances, but I don't think it came onto us if they did. Like we didn't feel it. We had a pretty, nice living, nice upbringing. So
the only thing
wouldn't that be considered middle class?
I don't know.
No?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is that if you're talking about the only thing you can be talking about, which is our accents, we are from the Black Country and we had very strong Brummie accents as kids.
Oh my God,
The reason
yes.
that we don't anymore is because we live in other countries where we've kind of had to change how we speak a little bit.
I will say this though, when I've had a drink, sometimes people, if I'm around other Brits, are like, "Oh my God, your Brummie accent really comes out."
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, "No, it doesn't. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there it is.
It's true. Any videos that you watch of us from teenage years, we both have a much stronger regional accents than we do now, and you kind of do have to phase it out when you live in a foreign country because nobody understands a word you say otherwise.
Oh yeah, and also as being a teacher in Hong Kong, I don't think people would want their kids to adopt the Brummie accent from learning English from me. You have a load of like Hong Kong kids being like, "You're right, how's it going, love?" It probably wouldn't be very good.
I do.
The parents wouldn't appreciate it.
I wonder if I had a Cockney accent, if as many people would think I was Australian. Because I feel like Americans only know Cockney as English. Because like if you ask an American person, they're like, they do a Dick Van Dyke kind of.
Yeah. Which is one of the worst British accents.
Yeah, and because I just come along and say like, normal things, everyone's always like, oh, like the other day, they're like, are you from Bondi Beach? Well, they didn't say it like that because
Yeah.
she's like, Bondi Beach? I'm going to get myself a little Union Jack to wear on my work uniform because to be honest, the other day I couldn't hold myself back from rolling my eyes when someone asked me if I was Australian. I really wanted to be like, we are not Australian, we're English.
Australian, we're English.
I was like, just stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think here, obviously, everybody nowadays does seem to not know where I originate from. They know I'm from one of the, either Australian, American, or English. It's always like that, but they don't know where because they say my accent doesn't sound particularly strong British anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's as you said, living in a foreign country, you always kind of adopt a bit of the language around you, a bit of the accent, around you. So
yeah. I just don't know. That's the only thing we can say is that we aren't posh in our lives. Like
no, in the way that we think, the way that we live. Yeah, I wouldn't say we're
and
posh
we
at all.
don't. Yeah, we're not snobs. And we don't have a lot of money.
Snobs?
Like we're just normal people. We might sound posh to you, but we're not posh.
No.
Moving on. We messed up when we said Joan could have died of AIDS. Obviously, Joan was supposed to die in 1964,
Sorry.
so that is a total miss on us.
Can I just explain that the reason that I thought that is because of Forrest Gump. Because in Forrest Gump, Jenny died of AIDS, right? But it was never stated clearly. So every time a character in anything sort of from, I don't know, the 80s, 90s died mysteriously in my eyes, I always think, oh, it must have been AIDS.
Yeah.
I blame Forrest Gump.
But they just didn't want to say it, I guess. But yeah, obviously, the first death of AIDS in the UK was in 1981.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was around the same time or the same year that Only Fools and Horses came out. And there were definitely plenty of references to AIDS over the years as the show evolves. But no, Joan did not die of AIDS. And Ed McKay...
Well, I was going to say, though, actually, it did say when I Googled it, although I don't know how accurate Google is sometimes, but it did say that there is a lot of speculation that AIDS was around for a lot longer than before the first documented case. So
yeah, it's true. And
potentially.
So again, going back to Forrest Gump, they didn't understand AIDS when Jenny had it because, like she says, they don't really know what it is, and that's
I have a virus,
and that's why they don't state the name of the virus in Forrest Gump because it wasn't understood at the time well enough for the doctors to explain it. So yes, maybe it was AIDS because we don't. Still, Ed said that he always assumed that Joan died of cancer.
Yeah.
But then my only argument for this is that if Joan had died of cancer, I feel like Del and Rodney would have talked about cancer a lot more in their lives. They would have been afraid that they were going to get it.
True.
They would have constantly been like campaigning, for health. Like my mom died of cancer. I don't know. I feel like John Sullivan.
It does feel like something you tell people.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
I feel like he omitted that because he always just wanted it to be she passed away, but we're not going to talk about why. And I said, maybe she took a drug overdose, and she wouldn't have been in the hospice if that was the case. So, and like I said, in Rock and Chips, they do not depict her as a drug user at all.
Maybe she was so brokenhearted when Freddie died that she just died of like heart failure because her heart was broken when the love of her life sat on a detonator.
But she died young, so Del's health fears are completely justified, like afraid of all the health worries. So this is all just us talking about this because this was never written.
No, of course not.
Just a quick reference and a thank you to Nick the Greek and Carlos's me for confirming that the Crossroads reference from Miss Diane was correct. Our parents were happy to hear that. Ian Turner let us know that the reference to a jetty is a take on a pier as found at the seaside and pier as in someone from British nobility. So that was a
pier of the realm.
Clever double entendre that we missed. And Sambo on Spotify also commented to confirm this. We had a couple of comments from Ed to comment on it, Ed McKay. So he, one of our very long time listeners, definitely thinks the guy sleeping on the table was just to show the class issue, the class divide in that cafe. But also Ed has mentioned here that we hyper-focused, I guess, on the Del's plan evolution throughout this episode, and he does not agree with us at all on this. He thinks that this is just something that Del came up with at the last minute. It wasn't meant to be a big scheme, and that's why he kept putting money into it and thinking maybe Rodney would marry Vicky. And that's a complete 180 from how we feel about the episode, but I think this is open to interpretation.
Yeah, totally.
There's another big reason that we think that, and that's because, like I mentioned at the time, our video cut off before the end where they talked about the £1,000. So I always just kind of thought that when I watched it, like, I always thought the same as Ed. I never thought it was a plan until I saw that. And I was like, okay, this whole thing was building up to Del making money off of this. And I kind of, now I can't unsee that.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I guess you look for things, then I guess that's my tendency to look for like underhanded sort of plans and plots and things that maybe aren't there. I think it's called paranoia.
Well, also, we've had this but we've had this consideration for many of the episodes because a lot of John Sullivan's scripts take a twist at the end, right? Like the last scene changes everything. And then we go back and we're like Homesick, for example, and we go back through and we're like, well, he must have known this all along. So when did he start this?
Yeah.
And like, actually, a lot of the time, John Sullivan never even considered that. He was just like, oh, the end's going to be this. So we're overthinking it.
Well, he could probably never have imagined that sort of 40 years on, people would be sitting here talking about it and analysing it to this level.
Exactly.
No.
So, like, and it doesn't matter. It's just for fun. So, finally, a couple of our listeners, Rose and Wolves 7655, these are very last minute because these comments are coming in while we're recording. It had been suggested by several people that if John Sullivan had been on set, this episode would have been fine. They agree with us that it doesn't matter really if John Sullivan had been there or not. It was just the tone of the episode, the script, the story.
Yeah.
This couldn't have been funny, unfortunately. Again, we love...
This is not funny!
We love John Sullivan. We love Only Fools and Horses, but this episode was always going to be worse because the script was off. There was just something wrong with the story, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You can't find this funny. I mean... There's bits in it that are funny.
Ducks off, I'm afraid. Sorry, going for my
I'm sorry.
I'm
so sorry. I know, stop it.
So finally, we don't have any comments about The Frog's Legacy because it hasn't released yet. So yes, we'll do those in our Series 6 wrap.
Alrighty, so let's move on to the overall series rankings.
Okay, cool. So we're going to do a quick summary of our episode order of Series 5 and our rankings and see how they compare. So take it away, dude. What were your rankings for this series?
My series order for Series 5 is number 1, Tifa 3, number 2, The Longest Night, number 3, The Frog's Legacy, number 4, The Miracle of Peckham, number 5, From Prussia with Love, number 6, Video Nasty, number 7, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and finally in the last place, Royal Flush. Let's hear yours, dude.
Okay, so my number 1 is the same as yours, Tifa 3. Then I've got The Frog's Legacy, and then The Miracle of Peckham. Number 4, Video Nasty. Number 5, The Longest Night. Number 6, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Number 7, From Prussia with Love. And number 8, A Royal Flush.
Wow.
And looking at this now, I think I'd reorder them completely now after we've done the
You've got
breakdowns.
Video Nasty over The Longest Night. That's quite surprising.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, they're only one apart. The Longest Night's 32 and Video Nasty's 31. But yeah, like these sort of 4 episodes I've got in the 30s. The Longest Night, Video Nasty, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and Prussia with Love. I think you could put them in any order, to be honest. But I think I would move Video Nasty lower. The Miracle of Peckham I'd probably put lower as well because it's my number 3. Well, that's your number 4. The Frog's Legacy and The Miracle of Peckham and Tifa 3 are clearly favourites of ours for this series because we've got them all in the top 4.
Yeah, and of course you have Tifa 3 in your top 10, which is definitely worth highlighting.
Yes, yeah. And A Royal Flush, bless it, 59 for both of us.
I know, but it's not in our bottom 5, which is pretty massive. All right, so for our overall big, huge ranking tier, Heather still has, let's see, left in your top 10, you've got...
I have 7 slots left in my top 10.
And I've still got 9. I've only got one so far in my top 10, which is To Hell and Back, and Heather has To Hell and Back, Healthy Competition, and Tifa 3 in her top 10. And then if we go down to the bottom 5, I've got 3 spots left.
I also have 3 spots left in the bottom 5. I wonder what they could be.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Let's move on to our overall awards. Let's try and get through this pretty quick because I don't want this episode to be too long. Plonker of the series is basically just a summary of who got Plonker the most times. And this has happened every time, I think, so far. Del is Plonker of the series.
Is the winner.
But that's only because a lot of the one-off characters are the Plonker because the media...
Well, I was also going to say, to be fair, Del has only got it twice in the whole of the series, so it's actually not too bad.
That's what I was going to say, because it's usually one-offs, because we gave it to the media in The Miracle of Peckham, Lennox in The Longest Night, Lisa in Tifa 3, Mickey Pierce in Video Nasty, and then Rodney and Albert in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Frog's Legacy. So, yeah, Del wins again, but only because he got it twice. So barely even. But Del is plonker of the series.
So the best line of the series, I think that we can choose the one that we think is the best out of all of them. So I personally, from this list, I think that I'm going to choose how am I going to convince people my granddad was Louis Armstrong? I think that is such a great line.
I was going to say, if I had to pick from this list, because I know that we've skated over a lot of other great lines to make this list, and maybe they're not the best lines, but
yeah,
I agree with that, or T for 3, just because it's like an infamous scene with the hang glider. But I think if we actually are just hyper-focusing on lines, let's give it to John Chalice's line in From Pressure with Love.
Yeah, just because it's more like a little speech. It's like a little mini monologue. And again, the delivery of it by John Chalice is just epic.
I might be able to con people into buying my cars. I might be able to convince them that you conceived and gave birth in 7 days flat. But how the hell am I going to persuade them my granddad was Louis Armstrong?
And then the best moment of the series. So this one we need to choose again. Honestly, for me, why don't you say yours first, dude? Because I just went first last time.
I would say, oh, this is tough, but I mean, for infamous moments, it's got to be The Longest Night or T for 3.
I don't know. Yeah, see, I personally, for me, I would have gone with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Oh, really? Over The Longest Night?
Yeah, because again, that speech that Rodney does, that moment when he's having a go at Del and talks about his upbringing and how Del was seen, about the is it a bird, is it a plane, it's Del Boy, like that part there with Del facing the camera and Rodney saying all this over his shoulder, I just think is so iconic. But again, we don't have to agree on this,
No,
you know.
It's a good speech, but I think like moments that, yeah, I mean, maybe. Let's just say if this was a documentary showing clips, they would definitely show the moment where Rodney grabs the cigarettes, but they would also show the hang gliding moment. They'd probably show the funeral procession. It's getting really hard to pick best moment.
Yeah, true. They're also outstanding. So yeah, for me personally, I would pick Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. But
let's say most poignant moment of the series. Although, if you're going to say that, you could definitely do the end of the Frog's Legacy.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know what to do.
Never mind. Let us know what you thought was the best moment of the series, because obviously we can't decide.
But never mind. Elsie.
You've worked hard to succeed, but never mind.
That's what Elsie would say to us when we finish this podcast. Okay. Alrighty, before we wrap up with the quiz, I am just going to do a quick rundown of our end of series continuity checks. Since we've included the Frog's Legacy in this series, there are actually quite a lot of timeline references to go over, but this will be pretty quick. From Pressure with Love, The Miracle of Peckham, and The Longest Night do not really give us any date references, but T for 3 does, because we talked about this during the episode. We got our usual reference to Rodney's age, which is still 24, important to note. And I will say in advance here that he jumps to 27 because series 6 starts with him being 27. And I'm guessing that this, in John Sullivan's mind, Rodney was just the 24-year-old kid, and then the beginning of series 6 marks him becoming an adult. Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I think there is a line in Yuppie Love where he says, I am 27 years old. So he states his age. So we're 24 all the way throughout dates as well, I think. I think he's still 24. So, and then we get that mention of Lisa, him being a year younger than Lisa. She's 25. Del says he's 46, but we agreed that that's not right. Rodney says Del's 46. As far as we're concerned, no time has passed in this series. There's no time references in Video Nasty. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire just gives us that date reference of Jumbo leaving in 1967. So, Del was 22 when Jumbo moved away, making Rodney only 9.
How was Rodney to know she was only 9?
So yeah, we talked about that in the episode. So there was nothing like wrong in the grand scheme of the timeline there. It's pretty believable. And then we got that reference about Rodney being a 5-year-old in the graveyard. So Rodney born in 1960. Joan died in 1964. Rodney was approximately 5. It all backs up. So there's nothing inconsistent about previous series. Not that we haven't already picked apart the inconsistencies in the first 5 series, but nothing clashes here, let's say that. The biggest one with date references in this series was The Frog's Legacy. Again, we talked about it in the episode, but Renee says she moved away in 1965 because it wasn't the same after Joan died in 1964. So yeah, again, nothing off there. The only thing that gets a little bit confusing here is that you've got Rock and Chips to consider, because Rock and Chips is supposed to depict this history that happened right before what happened in the 60s with Freddie and Joan. So, but John Sullivan did an incredible job of watching back and pretty much matching it up to the best he possibly could have done. There's no way he could have been perfect in this.
No.
The only one that stands out as a big glaring one so far is that Del says in Homesick they didn't move into Nelson Mandela until 1962, 2 years after Rodney was born, and he was born in Nelson Mandela. So I would say that's actually proven in Rock and Chips. Rodney's born and they live in Nelson Mandela. And again, we'll come back to that in Yuppie Love, because Rodney seems to think that he has some sort of right to stay in the flat because he was born there. But Del's the one who plays the rent arrears. So that's it really for continuity. So we're gonna go and do the quiz now, and it's gonna be so hilarious because it's what time is it now, dude?
So now it is 2 a.m. for me. That's how long it takes to record an episode, for everyone's reference.
Right. Okay, let's begin. So, dude, I have 10 questions total. So I did 2 for A Royal Flush and 2 for Frog's Legacy. So let's start with my question from Pressure with Love. Name the real father of Anna's baby.
Spencer.
Can you get his last name?
Wainwright.
Very good. Even I'm tired, and it's 11 a.m. here.
Only because I heard Mr. Wainwright said.
So they never referred to him in the episode as Spencer Wainwright. So yeah, you have to know the 2 different references. But yes, his name is Spencer Wainwright. That's correct. This is one I consider to be fairly easy. So let's see how you do.
Oh no, don't say that. I'm going to get it wrong.
No, you'll get it. For The Longest Night, what is Lennox's mom's name?
I don't take it yet. Roxana Gilby. Something. I know it's Gilby. Am I saying Roxana? Is that right?
So close.
Oh, fuck. Loxana Gilby?
No, it's Rosanna.
Fuck.
Loxana.
Why did I hear rocks like ox? There's an ox sound in there. Rosanna Gilby. Roxana Gilby. Live down out. I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
2 a.m. I'm going to keep blaming that.
I blamed that when I did really badly on your quiz. I was like, it's 7 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. You always get the early morning, get out of jail free, and I get the late night one.
Yeah. Okay, next one. For T for 3, what is the next line? Albert says, I read somewhere that vitamin E's good for an hangover.
Rodney's sitting in the chair in front of him, and he says, well, something about you getting up on stage singing that stupid song. But I can't remember the line that leads into that line after Albert says about...
That is the line.
Is that it?
Yeah, the line is, well, you made a right burk of yourself at that time. Getting up on stage singing that stupid song. Yeah, I know that was the next bit, but I couldn't think how to lead into it. So that would class as a half point. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot to record points. Okay, no problem.
It doesn't matter.
Video Nasty, my next question is, how much money had the art group been given to make a film?
Oh my God, I can only think of, I have been commissioned to make a film. I can't think of the amount. Fuck, what's the amount? That's a good question. Can you give me a hint of where it's said in the episode what the amount is?
It's when scene? Rodney is going, no, and they have given us, I've been given, no, it's me.
I've been given, it's something £1,000. I know that's the end of it. Been given... It can't be as low as 2,000, can it? Because you couldn't make a film on that.
It's not.
10,000?
Yep, it's 10,000.
10,000, yeah.
Yeah.
£10,000 to make a film. Yeah.
Okay. Well done, dude. You're doing very well for 2 a.m. I want to know how many other people are listening at 2 a.m. and getting these right. So, who wants to be a millionaire question? What year did Jumbo emigrate? We just talked about this, and it's in the script. You've only got it.
1967.
Yeah,
is that what you just
that's
said?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, well done.
See, I was listening.
Yeah. Okay, 2 questions for a royal flush, and the first one is quite hard, but it might not be hard if you remember because you did the breakdown. So name all of the food and drink items that Del and Junie consume at the opera. And 2 bonus points if you get them in the correct order. So you can just list all the food, or you can get them in the correct order.
This is from the list at the end, or this is from
the
actual,
opera chairs? Yeah, this is the actual scene progression, and I'll let you know. 1, 2, 3, There's only actually 4.
Okay, so the first thing that Junie is doing is drinking the carton drink.
That's correct.
And then they have the licorice all sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have the crisps.
Yep.
And then they have the ice cream.
Yeah, there you go. You did it. You think there's more, but there's actually only those 4, so... Yeah, well done.
I guess you could count the drink in the bar at the beginning, but...
No, this is only in the opera. Okay.
Right, okay.
All right.
Got you.
And then my second question from a Royal Flush is probably going to have to guess this one because I can't think that you'll know it. It's going to be multiple choice. So how many times is Da Vinci mentioned in the entire dinner scene? So this is from the beginning with the chandelier until the very end when Del is thrown out after this dinner. So it's going to be either 4, 5, or 7. And you're probably going to have to guess, I would think.
I can maybe think about it. Hang on a second. So it's mentioned one time when he's in the hallway with him because he's talking about it to him about the painting, and then Henry walks off. And then it's mentioned, I think, 3 times when they're at the table about the knife not being a Da Vinci.
It is not a Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. I think maybe it's not mentioned as many times as I think in the dinner scene. Maybe it's just that one time, because the rest of the time he's talking about the stuff he's talking to Victoria, and the Da Vinci joke is only ever with Henry. So maybe just one time there, and then 2 times. So 4. I'm going to guess 4.
It's actually 5.
Shit.
But you're so close. Yeah, that's why I put 4 and 5, because I thought it's actually difficult. And I did listen to it and I noted this down, but honestly now I can't tell you what the 5 are. But there's 5 references from the very beginning of the dinner scene until the very last line where Henry says, "That's a bloody Da Vinci." Okay, and then my phone is just goofed up. Okay, The Frog's Legacy, 2 final questions. Where did Boycie and Marlene purchase their wedding gift?
Royal Dalton.
That's correct. We got ours from Royal Dalton.
That's from Royal Dalton. Probably got theirs from Dalton's Weekly.
And then my last question is, in the Nag's Head discussion towards the end of the episode, Albert and Rodney argue that Del should drive down to Hampshire and get the money from the vicar because of how desperate they are for the money. So what are the 3 examples that Rodney gives to depict how broke they are?
Oh, shit.
It's just one long line, and if you really get the beginning,
yeah, I know it is. I know exactly. It's like, we are Jessica, and I'm telling you, I can hear the intonation of the line. I just can't think of the fucking word.
Shall I give you the first one? And
wait. We owe 3 weeks' rent.
It's 2 months.
It's the first 2 months' rent. Fuck, we owe 2 months' rent. We're living on something, and the electricity board keep calling to ask where our meter's running backwards. Is the last part of the line. The middle one, I can't remember.
Okay, you want me to give it to you?
Yeah,
okay, so we owe 2 months' rent. We are drinking tea with no milk in it.
Tea with no milk in it, yes.
And the electric company keep coming around to find out why our meter is running.
While their meter's going backwards. Yeah.
All right, dude, you're done. So let's try and...
Oh, I'd have got those right if it wasn't 2:10 in the morning.
I know you would have. So yeah, it's the same with my terrible score on my Series 2 quiz, was it? I love
that we've got a get out clause for the terrible scores from both of us every time.
Get away, car. I knew there was something. I was going to say that, I don't even want to give you a final score because I can't bother to add it up. But if it's fun for everybody, like, to run through these quizzes with us, so hopefully it is. But yeah, that is it. Okay, so drink up, we're leaving. So that is it for Series 5. So join us next week when we will be starting Series 6, kind of, because it's not really, with Dates. So Dates is not part of Series 6, but it only aired 1 week before Yuppie Love. So we're including it in Series 6. All the books do that. Yeah. So it's the 1988 Christmas special. Often gets lumped in with Series 6. Dates. Until then. Sunrise, come every morning. Lighting up the ground all around.
Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehookystreetpodcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Please like the video and subscribe. And please use the link in the description for our Buy Me a Coffee. Bonjour.